How exciting is this for you to be here now? I mean, you just were introduced only a couple weeks ago. Like things are moving quick.
Yeah, and I think I had my last staff meeting, and we had about 9 days together. And I said, it's remarkable what you can do in that amount of time. We went through philosophy, we went through developing players, we met as a group of scouts and coaches together. We went through profile tapes of ideal fits of how we'd want to play and all the scheme. We started on free agent evaluation. So like you can imagine in like 9 days together, the connection, the communication that goes back and forth. We had maybe guys from 10 or 11 different teams. So exercises like what can we do in the short term that you've done at another place that we can absolutely fast track, our competition and what we want to be about. And so all those little moments were good. And then being here, kind of, I look forward to these first interactions with the players and hearing their story, a little bit about their why. And then the football stuff will work it out, but like getting to know the man first and then talk about the ball player.
You talked a lot about your evolution as a coach, kind of on the field, and how you're trying to learn from yourself.
Yep.
How has that changed here at the Combine and the pre-draft evaluation process? How has that kind of evolved over the years?
I think one, as it started, like also the league did a better job. If I could tell you what it first looked like to interview players, like you're grabbing them as they're going to somewhere. We had a train station that everybody was huddled up in and trying to, you come over here, you come to the next. So like, I think the league did a really good job of allowing space to visit and to go and even extending this because, as you guys all know, the real purpose is medicals first. To make sure a player, gets all the inside outs, so to speak. So finding those spaces to connect with them, that's been really good. And so it now happens at all-star games, happens here, it'll happen at their pro days. And so finding those little touch points to see who'd be a good fit together, to me, that's the secret sauce of it.
Is there an example that stands out to you of a guy who you had questions about coming into the Combine, then you were able to get him in a room, interview him, and like something changed or just stood out to you?
I think, early on, it may even be after this. And the reason why I think first one here, guys are really nervous. And so sometimes you only have these 20-minute, I'm going to the next one, and like they don't even know what team they're talking to. They're just like saying name, rank, serial number, whatever. It's like just, so then what I've seen is sometimes the interactions here are very surface level. It's just getting to know, maybe finding out some background about a situation, something that came up, but at a school or at the the player's hometown or at their college or at the 30 visit, you see differently. Now you're not there for 20 minutes and a horn blows and you got to get up and leave. It's really deeper and getting to know, are we a fit for one another? Let's talk through this game that you were playing. What was it? And so a little bit of their background. So I wouldn't say it happens here, but I would say it does happen a lot when you go somewhere that you also say, I really hope we get a chance to coach him. And there's also some times that you leave there and saying, he'd be best somewhere else. And those ones are as important in evaluation as the ones that say, he's a fit, he can do it. And you have a real clear vision for the guys. And that's, my bond to Adam to make sure that every guy that we pick, has a clear fit. And his superpower is finding the players that the team needs, and he's certainly done that through Denver and New England and San Fran, different systems, but finding what that team needs. And so that's why I'm so lit up to be able to work with him, knowing that his superpower is finding what the team needs, and he's got a proven track record of that.
I know you guys are in the early going of really going through the roster as a whole, but when you look at the defense in particular, how much do you feel like you have a good grasp on sort of what that side of the ball needs right now and
I do.
where they're at?
And so, like, first order of business for me getting there was the staff. And so I wanted to meet with everybody that was currently on the Washington staff, and I did that. Some that stayed, some that didn't. And then the next order of business was our players on the roster and the free agents. And so then I could find uniqueness of what they'd play, how it would go. Does anybody change positions? Because I think when you're looking all the way through the roster, is that corner a really good tackler? Would he make a better safety? And so it's all the ways to go deep into it, because I didn't want to dive into a head without assessing our own team. So it was staff, current players, then getting into free agency. And so I haven't spent as much time on the draft players yet. Obviously, I'm just trying to stay in the progression. So, but it's not the worst thing to meet the people here and then watch the tape. versus the other way. Like you watch the tape and you're like, okay, I mean, he's really good though. So you have to make sure you can do that. So I'm just trying to like not miss one step along the way. But I do feel like I have a good sense of where we're at today.
Cam Curl in particular, I know, pending free agent. Just what are your overall views
Well, I think
of him?
number one, I've been super impressed by him. Like, over his last couple of years, of a guy that has absolutely gone for it, from tackler to being an enforcer. And so I was definitely impressed, not just this season, but he's put out, good tape, all the time here. So I think it shows a good story of a player going for it, developing, finding his space to, go do his thing. And it's kind of one of the cool parts about our league when guys, aren't always first-round picks and come make their way and do their thing. And Cam's a great example of that.
And you mentioned you know exactly how many days it's been since you were let go by Atlanta. How has that served you? Has that been a
Well, I
motivating?
don't like keep like a tab like on my kitchen door, So I just was thinking back through my time here at the Combine, and so I guess I have maybe a little more appreciation and gratitude for it. Like anything, the second time through you have different perspectives. And so what it did force me to do was to look back to know that I had a lot of time to prepare and to get ready and to really have a good vision of how to do it. And from ownership, connection, general manager, scouting, setting up a team, putting a program in together. So that's why. But it is 1,234 days today. But don't ask me in like 2 weeks. I'm not going to keep like a tally. I thought 1, 2, 3, 4.
I don't think it's a surprise to say that you guys need some more help with pass rushers after some of the trades that were made here last year.
Yep.
But when you're now looking at the roster, do some of the younger guys stand out, or even like Jamie Davis stand out to you in any way in that regard?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I wanted to find out. And when I looked at the roster, I wanted to find every single thing that could happen. So I went through the last few years of every blitz he had, talking about Jamin specifically, and where do I see bursts, where do I see traits. And so all I can do is evaluate on that. And then you find ways to train them and feature them into that space. Sometimes when you're a linebacker, it's hard to find how to do the drill work as a D lineman, to work games, to do that. And so finding that right balance. So I have not had that discussion with him yet about what that looked like. I just wanted to see traits of blitzing and being aggressive and going forward. And I'm looking for anything that would show those kind of pass rush traits all along the roster, outside, inside, the whole thing. So I've been digging into that hard.
Coach, have you had a chance to speak to Sam Howell or meet with him yet?
Yes, I got a chance to visit with him. We bumped into, I don't get a chance to visit with them, but just checking in on non-football related stuff. But what I did want him to know is like, man, going against him, he is one hell of a competitor. And tried to hit him, tried to knock him off, and to really, put pressure on him. And that was one thing that I really admired about him, even, coming up from North Carolina, and through his 2 years here, because I actually played, I think, in a game against Dallas the season prior. And and then preparing for him and playing against him and some of the guys, I just wanted to make sure I had a chance to talk to him about that. He's, certainly a tough competitor.
That was his first start. I think it was your only loss as the Cowboys DC.
No, we definitely had more losses than one.
To Washington.
Oh,
To
sorry.
Washington.
I'm sorry. I was like,
Yeah,
I get you. You're a homer.
were
I like it. I
5-1.
like where you're thinking. That's good. Right. We definitely played other teams. Yeah, I don't know about that. I was like, I'm certain we lost some other games. I would probably say that would be awesome if that was the case. So, no, I didn't know. I did not know that.
I know you want to stay in sequence, but is quarterback an exception to that? And kind of how do you imagine the timeline for the evaluation process of this class?
Yeah, I think with that position, every year you want to take it as far as you can when you're possibly selecting one. And quite often there's many years where you're keeping selecting and going and developing that position. I think we've all seen the importance of the position through the league, but I enjoyed going through the process as a defensive coach when I was a defense coordinator to look at the quarterbacks who were coming in, because you would eventually be playing those same players in a lot of spaces. So what I know is, man, like I have 1,000% belief and trust in Adam. I just do. I had a chance to watch tape with him the other night and just seeing him talk it and explain it and talk about routes and movements, and it was really impressive to see and be a part of that part of the evaluation. He's got a gift for it, and so I'll trust him with that every step of the way.
Is there anything you can share with us that stood out to you about the way that he was breaking the tape down?
I think just the level of detail that he went to of, watch him get out of a bad play, watch him speed up here, look at this route combination, look at the accuracy. He just has a stronger feel than most. And it's really a cool thing to see when you see somebody who's at a really elite level at something, it's pretty easy to see. And so after those 4 hours, I remember going home and telling Stacy, I said, man, this guy is elite.
Having Ken Norton lead a position that's kind of been lagging here for a few years, what does he do well in developing linebackers?
It's man, it's a lot. I would say he connects with the player emotionally, physically, their command, what the call looks like, and Ken had a rare ability to do that as a ball player. Signals, like this, every detail you could go into, like he's literally seen the vision from inside the helmet, and so at that spot, and so he's hard on them, but also I think look no further than Bobby Wagner and KJ Wright and the development that took place with those two players and where he took them to. Not to say it was always like felt great for them, but I think if you're really wanting to be great at somebody, you need people like that to push you to spaces that you probably wouldn't go to on your own. And it's one of the things I just absolutely love about Ken. It's the intensity, the challenge, the standards that he has, and so that's why it was so important to add people like him and Anthony Lynn to the staff who have really high standards about how to do it. And they were two specifically that I was hoping would join us. And so the fact that they both did, that was pool party time. That was a big deal.
Got time for two more? Quan Martin, another young guy. Just
Yeah.
curious, obviously he seemed to improve as the year went on. Well, what's been your impression?
Anytime a guy plays more than one position, they catch my eye. And so this is a person that has the skill to play down and be a nickel, but also has the tackling traits, and the deep range stuff as a safety. So for players like him, that's kind of my fun part. Which position, where to feature him. But what I did know is I loved the competitor. I loved the hitter and the tackler. So like he had all the traits that I wanted to see that I love about playing tough defense. And so when I got a chance, well, I didn't have to watch him because I studied him the year prior. So coming here knowing I had a chance to coach guys like him, that really lit me up. And now how do we feature other players around him and put guys into different spots, because it would be irresponsible right now to say he'll play at only this spot. I'm not going to do that. I want to find out more about him. I need to get on the field with him. I want to find out all the stuff that makes him him, and then I'll have a better sense for that. And that'll take going into training camp and through OTAs and that to find everybody's roles and how we fit together. We're obviously going to be adding a new influx of people here through free agency and the draft, and that'll factor into a lot of that as well.
Last one.
You mentioned KJ Wright, and I think he changed positions before you got to Seattle, I want to say, but just in how you worked with him and kind of not tailor the system around it, but got the most out of his versatility, his size. Is that sort of the things that you've been talking about, like with Micah
Yes.
and other players over the
And
years?
so at that time there was like two really big and long people. It was Cam Chancellor and KJ. And KJ's superpower was really to be able to match up and guard tight ends. He was himself built like a big tight end. He was 6'5" with almost 35-inch arms and 250 pounds. So like if he was lining up at tight end, you would say, boy, that looks like a good tight end. Like he could match size for people, and he relished that challenge to do that. And so it allowed people like Earl Thomas to be free in the box to go make plays, because KJ could match on a tight end and we put Wags on a back. And so finding what they did best was fun. And so to see that type of development and saying, I want to be the very best at this and have high standards for that. KJ and Bobby had those, and there was other players that pushed it in their own spaces at different positions to say, I want to be the best at this and I want to be that. And so it was more like proving it over and over. And so when we found everybody's thing that they could do at a really high level, that's when kind of like a lot of the magic took place there, where people found their spaces, owned them, and say, like, this job I can do better than anybody, and at the very best. And so KJ was a very good example of that.
All right,
All right,
thanks,
you
Coach.
guys have a good one.
Thanks, Sid.
Okay, very welcome.